Military coup d'etat in African politics. Watch the full video.
Military interventions in African politics, ladies and gentlemen. One of the most common features in the post-independent landscape in Africa was a litany of coup coming just after independence or just after the attainment of independence by many African countries. Coup was frequent in Africa. Every country in Africa had experienced military interventions in their politics. Soldiers will get up from nowhere, decide to take over power from civilian government. The first country in Africa to experience military coup d'etat was Egypt, when Gamal Abdel Nasser decided to take over power from a civilian government. This was the time coup d'etat started to emerge from different countries in Africa. The first country in West Africa to experience military coup d'etats was in Togo in 1963, when Nassimbe Ayadema decided to overthrow a constituted elected government of Silvano Olympio, and he was executed in 1963. Then in 1966, Ghana experienced military coups, and for Ghana several times. Nigeria several times military coup d'etats. Coups were so frequent here in Africa. Even breakfast also, breakfast not even frequent for the African people, but coups were frequent in Africa. Every country coup d'etats. Sudan, of course, coup d'etat. Sudan, Nigeria, and Ghana were countries in West Africa that experienced coup more than any other country. There's always change of government, not from the people now, but from the military soldiers. They would decide to take arms and ammunition to go and uproot a constituted elected government. In many African countries, in Libya, Gaddafi came through coup d'etats. Of course. In Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara also came through coup d'etats. Many African countries experienced coups. In Gambia, 1981, a retired civil servant called Kuka Samasai decided to overthrow a constituted elected government of Kairaba, but he wasn't successful. Because during this time, there was what he called Senegambian confederations before independence. Then Kairaba was able now to appeal from the Senegalese government of Abdou Diouf. Abdou Diouf was able to send his soldiers here in this country to rescue this country from the rebels that emerged from the south of Kuka Samasa in 1981. In 1994, the Gambia also experienced coup d'etats when young armed officers led by Jam decided to take arms and ammunition and uprooted a constituted elected government of Kairaba Jawara in 1994. The only country in West Africa that has never experienced military coups is Senegal. But apart from Senegal, many countries in West Africa experienced it. In Guinea-Bissau, several times. In Guinea-Conakry, there was military coup. And in military coup d'etats, people who normally lose their lives. Many people were executed, including the soldiers and the civilians. When African civilian government would stop corruption, bribery, nepotism now, coup will never emerge in Africa. When African government stop manipulating the constitution and rigging election, coup will never happen here in Africa. When the conditions of our armed people in arms, the soldiers, is improved, coup will reduce here in Africa. Give them salaries and wages, motivate them, give them good training and good morals. Coup will drastically reduce here in Africa. Tribalism. Each and every tribe want their people to be in power. That's why coups are frequent in Africa. The civilian government will promise the people that when I come into power, I'll bring development in your doorsteps. But yet when they are in power, they will cling in power for a long period of time by manipulating our constitutions. No developments at all. Financial mismanagement by most of our African civilian government, which angered Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. He decided to take power back and force coup d'etat. Gaddafi also likewise coup d'etat. Nasimbe Ayadema coup d'etat. Coup were so frequent. Because the civilian governments, they'll come into power now, mismanage the resources of the African people. That is what is motivating our African men and women in arms to uproot a constituted elected government. There is always slow pace of development in Africa. It could have been the best continent so far. But when our civilian government are mismanaging the resources now, misplacing funds, the conditions of our men and women in arms is not improved. They are working 24/7 to salvage and protect our country from any external and internal aggression. But yet their condition is not improved, which in fact do motivate them. Most of them, they organize coups. Some of the coups in Africa are very bloody because many people die, innocent people included, died in power. That's why the people who write about power, they say power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Overstay in power by our civilian government. Even recently, as I'm speaking, coup d'etats happened not long ago in a country. In Mali, coup d'etats. In Guinea-Conakry, coup d'etats. In Burkina Faso, coup d'etats. In Niger, there is coup d'etats. Because the civilian government tend to fail the people. And the military is also, they are citizens of that particular country. They would prefer to salvage their country now and bring developments to their country. It's high time African people wake up. Because this is a continent that we are so much borrowed from. Our children who are not even born yet. Mother Africa is suffering. There are some countries since independence don't realize who they are not enjoying from any developments at all as a result of misplacements of funds, slow pace of development, bribery and corruption, nepotisms and tribalisms. Military coup d'etats are a topic of that. So this topic is very fascinating, that is coup d'etats. Because when you look at Africa itself, we have in 54 odd nations. And each of these countries, they had in a government. Most of them civilian government. And each of these countries, they also have soldiers now. But the conditions of their soldiers is not improved. The soldiers are receiving low salaries and wages. People that will guide a country, defend the country against internal and external aggressions, their condition is required to well improve. The country need to enjoy development. When there is development in African countries, people or soldiers will never and ever think of coup d'etats. Because the soldiers themselves, they want peace. Each and every person needs peace. But when you push people to the corner, they will rebel against you. And when they are to rebel against you, they will rebel in all aspects. That's why coup d'etats is frequent. Sudan, even right now, there is war. Some countries are in war right now as a result of coup d'etats. Guns scattered everywhere. Industries closed. People are not going to their normal business activities any longer. Because people are afraid of guns. Tell me, which country in Africa is not experiencing war as of now? And in fact, in some African countries, they say there is peace. There is no peace, there is silence. People are dying. Poor medical facilities now, hunger and starvations, poverty and ignorance. That's why when you look at the African countries, people are migrating. leaving their homes, migrating to the Mediterranean Sea. There are people who have been rescued from this Mediterranean Sea. But even right now, they want to go back. It is inhuman for a person to say, even if I will die at the Mediterranean Sea, I will still go. Hard for an African to realize his or her dreams here in Africa. We are blessed with resources now, but it's as a result of misplacements of funds. That's why I think both men and women, young and old, want to go and serve for greener pastures in other countries. Those countries are not better than us. The reason why those countries are advancing is because things are put in the right place. Hardly you hear European countries that is coup d'etats, but why in Africa now? Who is to be blamed is my fundamental question. What are the reasons for this frequent coup d'etats? Guns everywhere in different parts of African countries. There are some countries for 10 years, 15 years, they are still at war. When are they going to experience or realize development? Innocent people have been executed. People are migrating with their belongings in search for peace. Our soldiers have been sent in different parts of Africa to go and maintain peace when there is no peace to be kept. There are reasons for coup d'etats. When you ask the soldiers, what are the reasons why soldiers normally, coup or engage in coup d'etats, they will tell you bribery and corruption by civilian government. The taxpayers' money is being embezzled by the civilian government. That normally anger us. And of course, we will take our arms and ammunition to go against a civilian government. In 1994, coup was here in the Gambia. And when you ask the soldiers who participated, they will tell you bribery and corruption by Skarabajawara's government. I do not know whether it's an allegation or it's true, but that's what they say. High level of bribery and corruption. They will abuse an entrusted position given or bestowed by them. They will receive money different from their salaries that they are earned. Corruption. They will employ their own people who are not even qualified, giving them beautiful or good positions. While the qualified ones with their documents are still suffering to look or to find jobs. Bribery and corruption is a key factor of military coup d'etat. In a country whereby they totally eradicate bribery and corruption, I do not say there are no coup d'etats, but coup will be reduced drastically. At some point, coup will be eliminated. When you ask the soldiers now, what is the cause for military coup d'etats, they will tell you rigging of elections and manipulation of the constitution. Contentment is important. Do not overstay in power as a leader. In fact, the best time to leave office as a leader is when people need you the most. That's why Nelson Mandela served as the greatest president that ever lived in our lifetime. People celebrate him still now because he struggled for the independence of South Africa and he left office when people needed him the most. The best time to leave office is when people need you the most. They will respect you. In fact, you will become an elder statesman. But when you are forced to leave power, you will lose your status as a leader. So rigging of election and the manipulation of constitutions do anger our security men in uniform, both men and women. They will decide to uproot a constitutional elected government and which can turn to become blood. Many people will die. Many people will die. Coup d'etats. Again, when you ask them, the soldiers, what are some of the reasons, or what is another reason that normally motivate soldiers to go in for coup d'etats, they will tell you. They will tell you, slow pace of development. We are tired of slow pace of development. Because if there is rapid development in a country, a development whereby each and every person will enjoy, we will not think of coup d'etats. Because the country is advancing now, because we are enjoying as citizens. But when the civilian government now, they aren't engaging in developments at all, that will anger the people. Not even the soldiers themselves, even the civilians now. That's why there's demonstration, there's frequent strike and demonstration. The influence by foreign powers, which also a key factor leads to coup d'etats in Africa. The foreign countries will influence our soldiers in arms to go against a civilian government. That's why when you look at in Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara was also coup d'etat as a result of the influence of foreign powers. Not only him, because they will supply guns, superior guns in Africa, persuading or influencing or even enticing our African soldiers to go against the government of a civilian government, especially if that government is against the European ideology and concept. As a result of the influence of Western powers, that's why many African countries today are not at ease. There is war, there is gun in almost any country, all countries in Africa. Rebel fractions forming in different parts of Africa. When you look at Sudan, rebel faction now. You look at Senegal, you are in Casamance, rebellion. You go to Burkina Faso, Mali, rebellion. As a result of the influence of foreign powers. That's why Africa is not at ease. In Africa, we don't manufacture guns. In some countries, they make bullets. But guns are available here in Africa. Where are they coming from? Influence of foreign powers. So most of our soldiers will decide to go against their government when they are influenced, when they are sponsored, when they are backed by foreign powers. It's a cause of coup d'etats, nepotisms and tribalisms. Also motivate military coup d'etats in Africa. Each and every tribe here want their own people to become the ruler of a country. There are different tribes in Africa. In some countries they have more than 100 tribes. In some countries they have more than 200 tribes. But each and every tribe here in Africa want their very own to become ruler of a state. And which can be, as a result, soldiers in those particular tribes will mobilize themselves and go against the constituted elected government, violating the constitution of that particular country, causing bloodshed in a country. Innocent people die, property destroyed, villages burned, women scattered, running hell and skelter inside of peace. That's why Africans are not telling this among themselves, because they can't trade if there is no peace. People are living and they are dying. See war in their lifetime. It is when our people will decide to put arms down, then we'll experience peace, then we'll experience development here in Africa. In Africa, people will build and destroy. When the civilian government build, the soldiers will come and destroy coup d'etats. When are we going to develop as a continent? When other continents are advancing now, Africa, we are still at war. I think and I believe it is high time for our people to put the guns down. We think of development. Our lands are lying idle without no farming. How can we farm if there is war? We can never and ever engage in agriculture if there is war in Africa. We are blessed with natural resources, gold, silver and diamonds, edible lands, water in Africa. Because in some countries, they are experiencing 9 months of adequate supply of rainfall. But as a result of rebel faction caused by coup d'etats. That's why it is becoming difficult for that country to feed herself even. Africa can feed herself, because when Thomas Sankara came into power, after some coup d'etats for 2 years, the people of Burkina were able to feed themselves 2 years. But when they realize his dream, his goal, they have to gun him down. Then he died, leaving this country in absolute poverty. What are some of the advantages of military coup d'etats? Because soldiers can take or make decisions that the civilian government can't. It's an advantage of military coup d'etats. And of course, soldiers can also make quick decisions that the civilian government cannot. In the same vein, or in the other hand, when you look at the disadvantages of military coup d'etats, sometimes when the soldiers come into power, they will hold into power. They will never want to release power, which is a great disadvantage. At the beginning also, when they come into power, they will subscribe to the idea of the masses. And as time goes on, they will deviate now, which is a great disadvantage of coup d'etats. Most of the soldiers who normally come into power through coup d'etats, they are not experienced. They can't make proper decisions. They use force to solve a problem, and force never solves a problem, which is a disadvantage of military coup d'etats. Example of countries in Africa that experience military rule or military coup d'etats. Togo experienced military coup d'etats. Ghana experienced several times military rule. Nigeria experienced military coup d'etats. Burkina Faso experienced. Mali experienced military interventions in their politics. Guinea-Bissau, many people died in there as the result of military interventions. In Liberia, they experienced military coup as well. Of course, in Guinea-Conakry, they also experienced military coups. In Gambia, military coups in 1994, we experienced. And of course, in Cote d'Ivoire, military coups, they experienced. Most of the countries in Africa experienced. The only country in West Africa that has not experienced military interventions in their politics is Senegal. The only country in West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, in our lifetime, military coups. So this is a tip about military coup d'etats.
You will be interested to watch our history playlist here or Slave Island.
Subscribe and watch our videos. They are very educative, and of course, people need to learn about history because it is important in our lifetime. This is a gist about military intervention in African politics. Because in Africa, politics or coup d'etats is frequent. When the civilian government are not doing what is expected of them, the soldiers also will not sit aside and watch. They would decide to overthrow the government, not through election, but through violence, coup d'etats. That's why in some countries, the highest crime that a person could ever commit is coup d'etats. When you are arrested, you are executed. So this is all about coup d'etats in our life.